The opioid epidemic is affecting every facet of existence in America. It is rotting the soul of America by depleting its workforce, destroying its families, depreciating the life expectancy of the entire nation, and threatening the future of its youth. Despite the slow reaction by the government, President Obama proposed $1.1 billion in funding to address the rampant abuse of prescription opioids and the closely related spike in heroin overdoses. President Trump has capitalized on Obama's efforts by allocating $6 billion in his budget to help address the epidemic. In the single year of 2016, more Americans died from drug overdoses than U.S. soldiers killed in the entire Vietnam War. Even the more conservative estimates for the death rate anticipate roughly 500,000 deaths in the next decade, reminiscent of the Black Plague. One Ohio coroner, so overwhelmed by the number of deaths, literally ran out of room for bodies for the second time in a span of months. With an average death rate of 115 Americans dying every day from opioid abuse, this is more than the amount of Americans killed from gun-related violence. As it stands, opioids are killing more Americans than breast cancer, and opioid-related overdoses kill more Americans than AIDS and HIV at the peak of their epidemics. But for those affected by opioid abuse, death is merely the end of a long road of pain and suffering. For the majority of those suffering from opioid abuse, it does not begin with short-sighted attempts to get high by thrill seekers. It begins with pain. A gnawing pain that never leaves its victim. A pain that latches onto a person and eats away at their soul day and night, never giving them rest, never easing up, never showing any mercy. Opioids affect their victims' ability to feel pleasure, literally destroying their happiness. This vicious cycle of abuse begins with the simple enough problem of Americans hoping to relieve their pain. Pain that increases with the medication they take, until their very soul is at stake with the risk of altered personalities and eventual overdoses. In the end, the victims become so strongly impacted by their pain that they are completely consumed by it. Due to the medication and their pain-filled existence, they struggle in a losing battle as they are no longer being successful in the workplace and are faced with the constant threat of eventually losing their health insurance. Opioid medication costs roughly 10 times the equivalent amount of heroin, increasing the likelihood that Americans suffering from chronic pain will eventually turn to this much more dangerous and illegal drug. Unsurprisingly, 3 out of 4 heroin users report to have abused prescription opioids before turning to heroin. As the number of opioid overdoses increase, the number of heroin overdoses has skyrocketed. The number of heroin overdoses has increased by 533% since 2002. The opioid epidemic has impacted the American economy so much that President Trump declared it a national public emergency in October 2017. The economic cost of opioid abuse, dependence, and overdose was estimated to have been $78.5 billion in 2013. 11.5 million Americans have misused prescription painkillers in 2016. The U.S.A. consumes more than 80% of the global opioid pill production while having less than 5% of the world's population. In 2015, the amount of opioids that doctors prescribed was enough to medicate every American around the clock for 3 weeks straight. As if the horrifying figure weren't enough, pharmaceutical companies such as Purdue Pharma have distributed coupons for 30-day free supplies of highly addictive drugs without properly educating patients on the risks of such drugs. And profit is the leading force in how people are treated. If the death toll continues to rise on its current path, nearly 100,000 Americans will die yearly from opioids by 2027. If the trend continues on its current trajectory, the epidemic will kill more Americans than U.S. servicemen killed during World War II. There is no easy or simple solution to combat this epidemic, but increasing awareness of the dangers of opioids and encouraging preventative and therapeutic measures for those suffering from chronic pain would be a good start. New methods of helping people need to be explored without condemning them to a life and eventual death of increasing and constant pain. Please share this video with your friends and family to raise awareness for this horrifying problem that average Americans are struggling with. The odds are incredibly high that you know someone who is currently dealing with this problem.